Hi there. So, I'm going to do a quick, let's say 15-minute roughly video on how to draw perspective, which can be applied to some of the concepts I'm going to talk about in this video could be applied to sketching anything, whether it's a person or a still life object on a table, interior scene, exterior scene. My throat is a little bit dry because this is my second run at shooting this video, and the first one didn't quite work out the way that I wanted, but I'm doing it again. So I have a big newsprint pad, and I have my pencil on steroids, which is a graphite stick, and it's pretty good for doing this kind of work. It's not included in your kit, but if you are passing by an art supply store, I really recommend trying one of these things out. They're fun. Okay. So, people driving by and seeing this random guy talking to a phone. Okay. When you're drawing something from observation, you're taking a photo essentially of, with your brain and your eye and your materials, you're taking a photo of a three-dimensional space and turning it into 2 dimensions. And I can't emphasize enough that transference of data is, and kind of learning how that works is a real key to being able to draw well. Sometimes you see photos of film directors going like this. Okay, you can see like photos of Steven Spielberg going, that's not just them kind of looking cool. They're trying to frame their shot. They're going, okay, I want to pan from here to there and the actors do this. But what do I want in my composition? Because every single frame of that shot is like a painting, right? So every single one of those images has a composition to it, and there's a rhythm of all the elements that are in that shape. Even when you're looking at me right now, I'm assuming that I'm on the right side of your image. I go over here, I'm on the left side. And the composition is either balanced or imbalanced, and there's lines all over it and shapes that lead your eye around. Okay? So what we're gonna do in the next couple minutes is do a basic sketch of this scene. And I'm not gonna talk too much because my voice is kind of going right now. But in the first couple minutes, I'm gonna lay down some basic lines, really light, to fill my image so I can plan where everything goes. And you don't need to work at this scale, but it works for this video so you can see what I'm doing. As you become more confident with drawing, you should move to a larger scale, okay? This scale of this size is not included in the kit, but I encourage you to work up to it as you develop. Okay, so my frame, as I framed this camera, I placed the horizon line and the vanishing point up there. Like, I could have repositioned it in different ways, but I decided that I want the lines of this road to converge up there in the top left of my composition, because that's how I want my drawing to look, because I want my drawing to look like what you're seeing. Okay? So in the first couple minutes, I'm going to lay down some basic lines that break that whole composition into basic shapes. Lines, triangles, circles or cylinders if there are any, but it's mostly going to be triangles and boxes, okay? So even though the road goes up in a bit and then there's trees and buildings, I know that behind all that is a horizon line, because these lines all converge at that point, right? There's a building here, roads, and those lines converge at a vanishing point. So I'm going to put that somewhere up there. Okay. That street lamp is really important. That street lamp and those telephone poles, there's 3 telephone poles. Boop, boop, boop. Or, well, there's another one way over there. But those power lines and those posts they take up a big chunk of that image, this image, in terms of laying stuff out. So I want to establish where they go, because if I have them laid out properly, then all the information in between them is mapped out for me. We're going to definitely do more perspective as the course develops, but this is just an intro to understanding how to draw and record an illusionistic space, right? Understanding how perspective works is based on the idea that you are at a very specific point on the planet and in the universe, and how this space looks is completely specific to wherever you are looking. So it's viewer dependent. If I was looking down on this road, like from Google Earth or Google Maps, I can be fairly certain that the width of each of those sides, this side of the road and that side, is the same, right? If I took a measuring tape, I could probably measure it and it'd be the same. From here to the center line and then there to the other side, it'd be the same. But in a perspective drawing, based on your specific viewpoint, this side of the road appears wider because it's closer to you, just like my hand got bigger. So I have to draw it wider than the other side. So that's roughly my road, and my center line I'm going to put roughly right there. Okay. There's a lawn here, and it also has edges that are parallel if you're looking straight down on them, but they converge to that point, that vanishing point on the horizon, that the opposite side of the road also lines up to, right? So Notice how I just do really sketchy lines. Even if I'm trying to make one line or to record one line, I make a whole bunch. Because the first one that you put down isn't the one probably that you're gonna keep. You need to put it down a few of them, and then you go, okay, which one's the correct one? Which one looks the most like what I see in front of me? There's this interplay between understanding that you're looking at a three-dimensional space with lines and shapes converging into the distance, and you're trying to create a space, the illusion of a space that you could enter, but you're also flipping your perception and understanding that this is a two-dimensional flat object. It has no depth to it. And imagine taking a photo of this space. You're looking at this right now through a screen, so it is flat anyway. But each of these shapes, like that road and that lawn, those buildings, if you were to print them out and cut them, what would that shape look like? So this chunk of lawn is a great example because it's got really defined edges. If you printed that shape out, like took a screenshot, print it out, cut it out, what would that shape look like? What are the angles of those corners? As a three-dimensional space that's been flattened and printed and cut out. So what I'm gonna do is try to draw that shape as if it's two-dimensional, because I'm creating a two-dimensional representation that appears to have qualities of a three-dimensional space. Those pine trees right here, they look like roughly, like if I was to drastically simplify them, they have a kind of a diamond appearance. So in the same way that I said in the first few minutes, you want to fill your entire image and plan out where everything's going to go. You're going to keep that up as far as trying to raise the entire image to the same level of development at the same time. So you work here for a little while, don't get sucked into details, do something else, okay? This area is less developed than this area. This area is not developed at all. Work here for a while. Okay. So even though I know that this post here is physically in front of this driveway, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff blocking my view of that road going across. But when you're sketching stuff out and planning things, you can draw that line right across and just layer stuff on top. Don't get all finicky and go, well, that line, I can't see it because it goes behind the other one. Sketch them right out. You're building a map of shapes and relationships. when I'm shading and trying to lay down surfaces, like the surface of the ground is a plane, right? And the siding on that building is another plane. And that lawn is a plane. These are surfaces. I lay down lines that try to describe the flatness of that surface. So there's a building the walls are vertical. I make some lines like that. There's a building here, and it's got some complex stuff going on because there's like this kind of inset area, but I'm not going to deal with that right now. I'm going to treat this like a giant box with one wall. And I go up and down like that. So if you look at this, be conscious of what your eye is doing as it moves through the image, because your brain naturally scans the world for information to educate you about your environment. From an evolutionary point of view, you're looking for threats, you're looking for predators, but you're just always, the eye is always scanning for information. And as an artist, you want to be conscious of what your eye is doing and not just letting it move around subconsciously. So when we look at this environment, you have like these massive diagonals that lead your eye up to this point, and then you have a few horizontal edges that lead your eye back here, and you have verticals that lead your eye back down, and it kind of goes around in a circle and moves all over the place. So whenever you're looking at an artwork or images on your phone, images on the internet, be really conscious of what your eye is doing as it moves around those shapes. So, is this a balanced composition? Well, there's kind of stuff everywhere. There's not. I could increase the contrast because there's not a lot of really dark areas, but this is pretty balanced because there's interesting stuff going everywhere, and you kind of go like this, go like that, maybe back here, you know? So if you've created an image where your eye keeps moving around, then it'll capture your interest and the interest of your audience for a longer period of time. So just, you want to create it's not that every single image, successful image, has to have stuff everywhere. There is not a lot of right and wrong sometimes in creating an image, but something that is dynamic and interesting to look at and engaging will have a lot of different kinds of information to keep your the audience's attention for a longer period of time. Okay, so that's basically that demo. I'm not doing anything super detailed right here. I'm just creating I'm creating a representation of a space that has a lot of interesting shapes and textures. And the main thing I wanted to get across here is just an introduction to perspective of creating a space that you can walk into, you can imagine walking into, not physically, but also how to plan out your composition and then work it so that you develop it at the same level of finish, balancing things out so that your proportions are correct, checking to see what the angles are, if your angles are correct, that kind of thing. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.